Hey guys, Erik Reed here again with another video from our Dumb It Down series where we're looking at timeless truths taught from the Bible but brought to and applied to our everyday lives. We just want to make these theological ideas understandable. And what we're looking at today is a continuation of what we talked about with trusting God, and particularly with not leaning on our own understanding. We talked about in the previous video in part 1 that sometimes leaning on our own understanding is when we have to make sense of things in order for us to trust God. We have to see the bigger plan. We have to know where this is going. Well, let me tell you another aspect of how we lean on our own understanding. Remember, Proverbs 3, 5 and 6 tells us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He will make straight your paths. We're looking particularly at the ways in which we do not lean on our own understanding, ways in which we often do, but we need to avoid in our day-to-day lives. And so what I want you to understand in this video is that we are storytellers. One of the ways that we lean on our own understanding is the stories we tell ourselves. We are always telling stories. We are always filling in the gaps with information that we lack with stories. So, for example, we find out that there's going to be a layoff at work, and immediately we begin to tell ourselves a story. We often tell ourselves the story that says, I'm probably going to be laid off. I'm probably going to be among the people they let go. And then immediately that leads to the next story, which says, and I'm probably going to have a hard time financially making ends meet. And that's followed by the fear of, well, I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage or my car payment or my kids, sports fees, or go down the line. And then what begins to happen is we imagine all the fallout of that. Do I have to go sit down with my in-laws and ask for money? Do I have to, and the next thing you know, we're in a real place of fear. We're in a real place of worry and stress only because we've created these stories. We've filled the gaps of information in that we lacked with our own storytelling. We are storytelling creatures. It's one of the things that separates us from all the animals in the animal kingdom. It's one of the things that separates us from all of creation. Other animals and other creatures in creation communicate in different ways, but none of them tell stories. None of them are storytellers the way we are. And we don't just tell each other stories, but the thing that we've got to understand is that we're always telling ourselves stories. You and I are always telling ourselves stories. So the reason you didn't get invited to that thing is because nobody likes you. The reason that I never get asked to help is because they don't like being around me. I don't know why I got this cough, but I bet there's something seriously wrong happening inside my body. Think about all the stories that we tell ourselves. Think about how so quickly we tell stories to fill in the information, and I want you to notice how they're almost always negative. You and I are writers, directors, and actors in our own stories every day. And most of us write and direct horror films. And the reason I want us to understand the importance of this, and the reason that the scriptures tell us not to do this, is because the stories we tell ourselves have a profound impact on our emotions. In other words, they're not harmless. You and I, as we tell stories, are affecting our emotions. That's why fear and anxiety and worry and stress and depression and all of those things begin to manifest from our stories. The reason that we can begin to imagine a future that hasn't happened yet, but then it affects our present, is because of the power of story. So the thing that we need to realize today is that we are storytellers. And one of the ways that we avoid leaning on our own understanding is we watch carefully the stories we tell ourselves, because our stories are not neutral.